My fiancé, who was supposed to be on a business trip in City S, ended up being quarantined in a hotel in City Y due to a sudden outbreak. Coincidentally, his ex-girlfriend was also quarantined there with him, and I, the bride-to-be, only found out about this on the day before our wedding. Over 20 days later, he appeared before me and told me he would reschedule the wedding. I smiled and gently shook the diamond ring on my finger. Sorry, Mr. Chan, I'm already married. Chapter 1. Victor Chan called me while I was doing the final makeup trial. Outside, the room was noisy. My best friend Sophia and my cousin Oscar were arguing about how to tie the balloons to make them look pretty. Smiling, I pressed the speaker button and asked gently, "You're back from S City?" A week ago, Victor had told me there was a long-delayed business deal in S City he had to go negotiate. When S City was locked down due to the pandemic, he was extremely irritable because of the delay in this project. Now that the lockdown had been lifted, I had no reason to stop him. Before he left, he promised me he'd definitely be back in 3 days, just in time for us to spend Valentine's Day together. But 3 days turned into 5, and 5 days turned into now. Victor paused for a moment before speaking in a guilty tone. Ruby, I'm sorry, I probably won't be able to come back anytime soon. Can you postpone the wedding? I'll have my parents explain things to the relatives on my side. Once I get back, we'll hold an even grander ceremony. My smile froze on my face. Before I could ask why, a coquettish female voice answered the question for me from his side of the call. Victor, how long do we have to quarantine in Y City? If I'd known, I wouldn't have come with you. The next second, the call was hung up. Chapter 2. The high-paid makeup artist stood next to me with a curling iron in her hand, her expression laced with awkward sympathy. Miss Lin, shall we continue? I looked at the reflection in the mirror, long hair down, makeup flawless. Just minutes ago, I'd thought I was the happiest woman in the world. Outside the door, Sophia and Oscar were still bickering playfully. I dug my nails into my palm to calm myself, and gave the artist an apologetic smile. Sorry, could you give me a moment? I need to make a call. The woman's voice earlier had sounded familiar. I needed to confirm whether my hunch was right. The call was answered quickly. On the other end, Nestor was his usual unserious self. Yo, the bride's calling me? Changed your mind and decided to come to the dark side? I have a question. Where did you meet Sabrina before? S City. Why are you asking about her all of a sudden? Don't tell me Victor ran off with her. I hunched forward slightly, feeling as though someone had punched me hard in the chest. It hurt. So his irritability back then wasn't because the project couldn't proceed, it was because he was worried about his ex-girlfriend. My eyes stung and swelled, but I couldn't cry. Nestor. I called his name with a hoarse voice. You once said if Victor didn't want me, you'd consider taking me. Does that offer still stand? The words had barely left my lips when I heard the sound of shattering glass. Nestor swore lowly. Shit. He really ran off with Sabrina? No, I'm the one who doesn't want him. So will you marry me? A notification popped up on my phone from Victor. Sent just minutes ago. It was short. Be good and wait for me. I'll explain everything when I get back. So close to the wedding. He was spending Valentine's Day with his ex in Y City and still wanted me to wait for him. Without a doubt. Even if we rescheduled, the story of the granddaughter of Commissioner Lin getting left at the altar would be the talk of the town. I couldn't afford that disgrace. My family couldn't afford that disgrace. I knew it was unfair to him. So I softened my tone. Help me this once. After we're married, I won't restrict you. We can sign a prenuptial agreement. If you ever want a divorce, I won't ask for a single cent of what's yours. You've always liked that song Dynasty Rue Kiln Celadon Plate, right? I'll give it to you. Nestor paused, uncharacteristically serious. Are you sure? No regrets? No regrets. All right. Wait for me. I'll marry you tomorrow. Chapter 3. After hanging up, I texted Victor back. Tell your relatives. I'll handle things on my side. Then I opened the family group chat. Victor and his ex-girlfriend are quarantined in Y City. No idea when he'll be back. Let the hotel know to change the groom's name to Nestor. The wedding will go on as planned tomorrow. Those 2 messages landed like bombs, instantly blowing up the group chat. Oscar burst through the door, breathless. Sis, what's going on? That bastard Victor cheated and ditched you too? He dares treat you like this? I'll call and curse him out right now. I motioned for the makeup artist to continue and gently soothed him. No need. It's the Chan family that will lose face if I remarry before the wedding. Let people know to keep this quiet. Don't let Victor find out until the wedding. Oscar looked confused. But why? Sis? Because I want to humiliate him publicly. Chapter 4. Victor, Nestor, and I grew up together in the same military compound. But those two have never gotten along since childhood. Victor was the classic model child, great grades, organized, calm, and composed. Nestor, on the other hand, as Grandpa Sue would say, was a wild monkey that hadn't been tamed. Not only did he cause trouble himself, he always dragged me into it. According to him, since his grandpa couldn't bear to punish me, his own punishment would be lighter if I was involved. But he forgot that even if his grandpa couldn't bear to scold me, mine could. Growing up, I was punished plenty because of him, but in the process, we developed a strong bond, a sort of revolutionary friendship. My crush on Victor was an open secret. Just how open? Even our parents used to tease us about it. Before he met Sabrina, Victor had always tacitly accepted it. Whether I was clinging to him or others joked that I was his little wifey, he never objected. Nestor often grabbed my face and shook it from side to side. Let me hear just how much water has soaked your brain to make you fall for a pretentious coquette like Victor. Not only is your brain waterlogged, your eyesight is also shot. I'm way better looking than him. Truthfully, Nestor was better looking than Victor. He stood 186 centimeters tall, with a lean, muscular build from years of working out. His looks were flawless. I know at least 3 entertainment companies that tried to sign him with the promise he'd become an overnight star. But he had no interest in showbiz. He just wanted to inherit his dad's business and become a full-blown capitalist. Not that his military commander grandpa would have allowed it anyway, even if he had wanted to. When we were 6, he once told me he'd build a huge diamond house for me one day, more luxurious than the one Emperor Wu of Han built to keep his concubine. Maybe if he hadn't said that while yanking on my pigtails, I might have been a little touched. Maybe we were just too familiar. With Nestor, it was either teasing or dragging me into mischief. We felt more like brothers. Victor, on the other hand, though cold in temperament, was always gentle and tolerant with me. What girl with a crush could resist a guy like that? Chapter 5. I had always thought that Victor liked me too, until Sabrina appeared. The first time I met Sabrina was at my 18th birthday party. Even though our old man had always been known for his integrity, the house was still filled with prominent figures from both business and politics on such a special day. I had just changed into my gown and was coming down the stairs when I saw Victor walking in, holding hands with an exceptionally beautiful girl. Amid the murmurs and the grim expressions of the Chan family parents, he calmly walked up to me with her and handed me a gift. Happy birthday, Ruby. Oh right. Let me introduce you, this is my girlfriend, Sabrina. Then he turned his head and looked at her with a tenderness I had never seen before. This is the birthday girl I told you about, my sister Ruby. At that moment, my mind went completely blank. I stood there, dumbfounded, holding the gift. Luckily, Nestor pulled me away just in time. He took me up to the rooftop terrace. I curled up in a corner and cried my heart out. I couldn't understand. How did something that had felt mutual suddenly turn into a one-sided fantasy? Why had he never objected when people called me his little wife? But now I was just a sister? Maybe Nestor got tired of my crying. He lightly tapped me with the tip of his shoe. Hey, stop crying. If Victor doesn't want you, you can always consider me. At the time, I looked up at him with teary eyes and snapped, "Thanks, but no thanks." He just shrugged. Well, if you ever change your mind, let me know. After all, we're bros. As long as I'm single, the offer stands. Who would have thought those words meant to comfort me would one day come true? Chapter 6. I'm not the type to cling to a man. Victor bringing his girlfriend to my birthday party, any fool could figure out what his intentions were. I cut off all the ambiguity between us and stepped into the sister role he defined for me, watching from a distance as he went crazy for Sabrina. Turns out, even that calm and composed boy could be impulsive like any other young man, torn apart with worry and desire for the girl he loved. Victor's grandfather and father were both high-ranking military officers, and they had always hoped he would follow in their footsteps. But Sabrina's father was an alcoholic, a gambler, and had a criminal record. A girl from a family like that was never going to be accepted into the Chan family. Victor's mother held my hand and told me, "Ruby, our family will never accept that pretentious coquette. Only you are the daughter-in-law his father and I have acknowledged. Victor's just being foolish for now. I'll straighten him out." We both knew it wasn't just a moment of foolishness, and I didn't want to interfere in their relationship. I turned her down, but she still went all out to try and break them up. She even went as far as threatening suicide to force them apart. Victor, fed up with it all, poured his anger onto me. After another incident where his mother was rushed to the hospital for slitting her wrists, Victor punched the wall behind me with bloodshot eyes. "Fine. I'll do what you want, break up with Sabrina and be with you. Just make sure my mom stops this nonsense." That was the only time I saw him truly break down, like a beast trapped in a cage, struggling countless times only to eventually give in, reluctantly. But I was innocent too. Chapter 7. My relationship with Victor hit rock bottom. My university was close to home, so I'd always commuted. But to avoid him, I packed up and moved into the dorms. Victor's mom clearly hadn't expected him to take it out on me, afraid it would damage the relationship between our families. She quieted down for quite a while. Once Victor had calmed down, he tried many times to mend things between us. I rejected them all with the excuse of being busy. We were stuck in that cold standoff for over 4 months until a car accident finally broke the ice. Victor must have been distracted while driving and crashed into a utility pole. When I got to the hospital, his mom and Sabrina were both sitting outside the operating room, eyes red and swollen. The red light above the door was especially harsh to look at. The surgery lasted over 4 hours, followed by a week in the ICU. Victor survived, but his leg and arm were badly injured and might be permanently disabled. Even so, the Chan family still wouldn't accept Sabrina. After staying by Victor's side for over a month, Sabrina broke up with him. She was smart. With her looks, she had no shortage of rich suitors. There was no need to waste her time on someone who wasn't accepted by his family and who might now be a ruined man. Chapter 8. After Sabrina left, Victor's temper grew more and more volatile. His mother cried every day. When I didn't have class, I went to the hospital to keep him company. Nestor scolded me furiously, saying I was devaluing myself. Having grown up with Victor, I couldn't deny that he had treated me well, at least before Sabrina. Now that he was like this, I just couldn't bring myself to abandon him. It had nothing to do with love. I stayed by Victor's side through 2 years of changing seasons. One surgery after another, one round of rehab after another. The process was long, but at least the outcome was good. Once Victor recovered, he showed up with a huge bouquet of roses and confessed to me. I turned him down. I told him I didn't want gratitude, and I certainly didn't want him to repay me with his body. He spent the next 3 years convincing me that he truly loved me, but Sabrina's return shattered the dream he had so carefully woven for me over those 3 years. Chapter 9. When Nestor arrived, I had just changed out of my gown, and the makeup on my face was still untouched. A flash of amazement crossed his eyes, but he quickly suppressed it. "Bring your ID and household register. Come with me," he said, puzzled. I asked, "Where are we going?" "To get our marriage certificate. The longer the night, the more likely something goes wrong. What if my Song Dynasty Rude Kiln Celadon plate grows legs and runs off?" He smirked lightly. Clearly, he was in a great mood. Under the curious and gossipy gazes of our friends and family, I followed Nestor out the door. It wasn't until that red booklet was pressed into my hands that I truly felt the surrealism of it all. Victor and I had originally planned to get our marriage license on Valentine's Day, but due to his business trip, or rather, his vacation with his ex in Y City, it was delayed until after the wedding. And yet, in less than a day, I had the license in hand with a different groom. After getting the certificate, Nestor took me to a jewelry store to pick out a pair of matching diamond rings. "There's no time for custom orders. Just wear this one for now. I'll get you a unique one later." "No need. This one's perfect." I tried it on. Size was just right. "By the way, about our marriage registration, can we keep it under wraps for now? I'm afraid Victor will find out." Nestor's sharp eyebrows raised slightly, and that handsome face of his darkened. "What's that supposed to mean? You thinking of getting back together with him?" I waved my hand in front of him. Under the light, the diamond refracted a dazzling glare that made me squint. "Not at all. I just want him to see it with his own eyes and feel the sting." He rubbed his chin, thinking about the wedding. There's no hiding it by tomorrow. Whether he knows now or later doesn't make much of a difference. No, he'll just think I'm throwing a tantrum. Chapter 10. I can't pretend to be magnanimous and forgiving, not anymore. Half a year ago, during one of our compound's regular reunions, Nestor casually swirled his wine and said, "Ran into Sabrina on a business trip a few days ago." Every pair of eyes in the room immediately turned to Victor and me. We had all witnessed Victor's grand, passionate pursuit back then. He only paused briefly before continuing to peel shrimp for me, calm and composed. If he had told me back then that he still hadn't let go, I would have sent him off to chase his true love without hesitation, and with my blessing. But he didn't. Over the past few years, I never doubted Victor's feelings for me. The affection and care he showed in our daily lives were too natural to be faked by even the best actor. But I wasn't the only one in his heart. I was his second choice, the one he settled for. And worse than being a second choice, he bailed on me at such a critical moment. He dragged our family's reputation through the mud. Chapter 11. Truth be told, our family and the Sue family were even closer. Our grandfathers had crawled out of the trenches together and shared a bond forged in blood. My father and Nestor's father had once planned their entrepreneurial ventures together in their youth. Compared to Victor, my family had always preferred Nestor. My mom had told me more than once that Victor was too calculating. I couldn't handle him. Now, after what he'd done, even though my family thought I'd acted rashly, no one voiced any criticism. As for the Sue family, connections aside, Grandpa Sue had 5 sons and 8 grandsons. They'd always wanted a granddaughter more than anything. According to my grandmother, when I was little, they even seriously considered stealing me to raise as their own. While kidnapping a child wasn't an option, I had spent most of my childhood at the Sue household. They genuinely treated me as one of their own. Naturally, they were thrilled for me to marry into their family. Since we all grew up in the same compound, about 80 to 90% of our social circles overlapped. So, it was inevitable someone would inform Victor. By the time Victor's parents arrived, Nestor and I had already exchanged rings, perhaps due to fear of my grandfather and Grandpa Sue, or maybe just for the sake of face. They didn't make a scene. They entered the banquet with gloomy expressions. Sophia had been holding onto my phone since my makeup started early that morning. Every call from Victor, she declined them all. During the toasts, Mrs. Chan found a chance to pull me into the restroom alone. "Ruby, it's true Victor shouldn't have left for his trip, but you've gone too far today. I know you're angry with him, but marriage isn't child's play. How can you drag Nestor into this just because you're upset? What will everyone think? While the guests are still here, go out and explain. Once Victor comes back, I'll help you teach him a lesson and make him apologize." "Auntie," I interrupted politely. Victor wasn't on a business trip. He went to Y City to spend Valentine's Day with Sabrina and got quarantined. Mrs. Chan froze, her well-maintained face full of disbelief. I smiled and turned back to the banquet hall. As I passed the men's restroom, I happened to hear Nestor on the phone. "Oh, your wife? Then show up at the wedding and I'll admit she's yours." His voice lifted playfully at the end, arrogant and smug. Chapter 12. By the time everything wrapped up, it was past 10 p.m. I took back my phone and scrolled through the missed calls Victor had called who knows how many times. The list was nothing but his name. Just as I was about to check his texts, he called again. I hung up and blocked him without hesitation. A few minutes later, Nestor's phone started ringing. I glanced at it. Sure enough, it was Victor again. I reached over and hit decline. Right then, Nestor came out of the shower. He was toweling off his dripping hair, wearing nothing but a large towel around his waist. His abs were sharply defined, every line perfectly cut. "Already checking up on me on our first night as a married couple?" he teased with a grin. I swallowed hard. I'd known he worked out regularly and had a good body, but I hadn't expected it to be this impressive. "Wah, what nonsense are you talking about?" Victor called. I just declined it. "Why are you walking around like that? Go put some clothes on." Nestor stopped drying his hair and let out a low chuckle. "My dear wife, it's past 10 p.m. I just showered and I'm in my own home, about to sleep. What exactly do you want me to wear?" He had a point. I scratched my head, thought for a moment, then stammered. "You should stay chaste for your future wife." "No need for that. I don't plan on divorcing you. I don't want to get beaten to death by my grandfather. If I want to stay alive, you'd better forget about divorce. Given how much Grandpa Sue adores me, that might not be an exaggeration. So, no divorce. And I've basically given away a precious Song Dynasty Celadon plate, the one I spent a fortune on at Sotheby's. Truly, I was too impulsive. Chapter 13. While most newlyweds are basking in wedded bliss, lit by candlelight on their wedding night, all I wanted was to be roommates with Nestor, respectfully cohabiting, minding our own business. Blushing, I grabbed a quilt and ran to the guest bedroom, thus officially beginning my life of cohabitation with Nestor. Wait, no, shared rental life. After showering, I realized I couldn't find the hairdryer, so I had no choice but to wrap my hair in a towel and head to his room to borrow his. I knocked lightly on the milky white door, and it quickly opened from the inside. He had thrown on a robe, loosely tied at the waist. His abs peeked out faintly, even more seductive than earlier. When he saw me, he paused slightly. A faint blush crept up his cheeks, clearing his throat. He rasped, "You might want to go put some clothes on first." This summer was hotter than usual, even in early August. City B felt like a steamer. Even with the air conditioning on, it was still stifling. I was only wearing a silk nightdress. The water dripping from my hair had dampened the fabric over my chest, turning the wet patch translucent. With a sharp yelp, I spun around and bolted back into the guest room. Chapter 14. I was so embarrassed I wanted to vanish. Even though Nestor thoughtfully brought the hairdryer over later, I still decided to avoid him for a couple of days. But he didn't give me the chance. About half an hour later, there was a knock on the door. "Come out and eat." I decided to stand my ground. "I'm not hungry. I'll skip dinner." Because of all the toasts at lunch and the wedding antics at night, I hadn't eaten much all day. Ignoring it had been fine. But now that he'd mentioned food, my stomach started growling. Nestor's voice came again, calm and steady. I ordered sweet and sour ribs, fried shrimp, Coca-Cola wings, mapo tofu, spicy stir-fried lotus root, sour shredded potatoes, and braised eggplant. The next second, I opened the door, faced with delicious food. All shame, pride, and integrity were instantly forgotten. The restaurant he ordered from was amazing. I ended up eating 2 full bowls of rice, stuffing my belly round. After the meal, he got up to clear the table. I wanted to move around a bit and offered, "Let me handle it." He didn't stand on ceremony. As he took the leftovers to the kitchen, he smiled at me. "Then you can do the dishes." I rubbed my overstuffed belly, said okay, and followed him to the kitchen. As soon as I turned on the faucet, a wall of muscle pressed up behind me. Nestor reached around to tie an apron around my waist. As he straightened up, he murmured in my ear, almost lazily, "Tisk, your waist's pretty slender." My face flushed hot, and I jabbed my elbow into his stomach. The dog. He actually dared flirt with me. Chapter 15. The next morning, when I stepped out of my room, Nestor was just setting 2 bowls of porridge on the table. Seeing me, he smiled and called out, "Was just about to come get you." He wore a sky blue halter apron, and his slightly messy bangs fell over his forehead, giving him a youthful charm. Bathed in the morning sun, he looked almost unreal. Even though I'd long grown used to that face of his smile still made me dazed for a moment. Before I realized it, he was gently steering me toward the dining chair. His voice carried a hint of amusement. "What are you staring at? Come eat. We'll go shopping afterward." The apartment was a wedding gift from the Sue family to Nestor. We'd just moved in, so there was still a lot to buy. There was a large supermarket nearby. Pushing a cart together, discussing what to get, it felt almost like we were an ordinary couple. Unfortunately, we were husband and wife in name only, not lovers. Nestor was wonderful. Falling for him wouldn't be difficult. But the problem was, we knew each other too well, too familiar to feel that spark. And then there was still Victor. I glanced at Nestor, who was choosing towels, and sighed softly. Forget it. One step at a time. He'll find someone he truly likes one day. When that time comes, I'll do everything I can to help him walk away cleanly from this marriage. After all, I was the one who pulled him into this mess. Chapter 16. Life went on peacefully. Due to the pandemic, we canceled our honeymoon. During the day, we went to work separately. At night, I curled up on the couch watching dramas while he sat next to me with his laptop. Working. Sometimes. He'd tease me with a few cheeky remarks. Everything felt the same as before, yet subtly different. Victor returned to City B over 10 days later. He had to quarantine again. Sabrina was with him. Hearing that news, I did feel a pang, but that was all, a pang. It no longer hurt like it used to. After I blocked him, he even used Sabrina's phone to call me, saying he could explain, asking me to wait for him. I didn't think any explanation mattered anymore, but I still told him, "We'll talk when you're back." Maybe I sounded too calm, and he thought I had cooled off. He wasn't wrong. I had cooled off, so much so. My heart had gone cold too. Chapter 17. I saw Victor again over 10 days later. I must have left the house on a cursed day. While crossing an intersection, the car ahead of me suddenly slammed the brakes. I braked too, but still rear-ended them. It should have been a simple insurance matter, but the other driver, seeing I was a young woman in a luxury car, seized the chance to try and extort money. Young as you are, driving such a fancy car, your background probably can't stand the light of day, right? Make a scene. It won't end well for you. Give me 10,000 yuan and I'll let it go. I rolled my eyes skyward, unwilling to argue. I called the police and Nestor. Just after I hung up, I looked up and saw Victor. In just a month, he looked noticeably thinner and more haggard. His clothes hung a little loose on his frame. He walked up and asked, "Rear-ended?" I pressed my lips together and gave a cold mem. "Take my car and go. I'll handle this." He handed me his keys, but I didn't reach out. No need. Nestor will be here soon. His hand holding the keys froze in midair, his face darkening with a hint of pleading. I know I messed up. I didn't expect Y City to go into lockdown. I'll reschedule the wedding. Please, don't be mad anymore, okay? I curved my lips into a smile and lifted my right hand in front of him. The diamond ring on my ring finger gleamed under the light. Sorry, Mr. Chan, I'm already married. Chapter 18. Victor's usually gentle face turned several shades darker. Ruby, can you stop this nonsense? If you and Nestor staged this whole thing just to get back at me, then congratulations, you've succeeded. Can we end it here? I looked him straight in the eye and said with total seriousness, "Sorry. This isn't a joke. I'm really married. We registered and everything." His tall frame swayed slightly, and he muttered in disbelief, "We haven't broken up yet." You're right, we haven't. But when you ditched me to spend Valentine's Day with Sabrina, I considered you dead. His tone turned desperate. I really was just in S-City on business. I didn't expect to run into her. I couldn't help but laugh. That's the excuse you came up with after thinking for a whole month? Do you even believe it yourself? Victor choked on his words. After a long pause, he lowered his head and apologized. "I'm sorry, Ruby. Just give me another chance." Before I could respond, a large hand settled on my shoulder. Nestor's voice came from behind me. "Well, if it isn't the infamous Chan Casanova." I turned around, surprised. "You got here fast." It had only been 10 minutes since I called. I thought I'd have to wait a while. I happened to be nearby. As soon as I got your call, I rushed over. He smiled at me, then raised an eyebrow at Victor. "What's this? Trying to steal someone else's wife in broad daylight?" Victor clenched his fists, trembling with anger. He shouted, "You're the one who stole her. You took advantage of the situation." Nestor smirked and replied calmly, "So what? We're married." Victor lunged at him with a punch. Nestor gently pushed me aside, took the hit full on, and only then fought back. They had always been opposites, Victor calm and restrained, Nestor impulsive and wild. In a fight, the gap was obvious. Within moments, Victor was pinned to the ground. The driver who had initially tried to extort me quietly slipped away as the light turned green. Chapter 19. All three of us were taken to the police station. The car accident had turned into a brawl. Coincidentally, the officer handling our case was an old acquaintance from the compound. A few years older than us, Chini. He glanced between the three of us, barely hiding his gossip-loving grin. Well, a fight. Huh? What's the plan? Settle privately or go by the book? Nestor shrugged. Doesn't matter. He threw the first punch. I was just defending myself. So that's why he took the hit. He planned this all along. Tell me why you were fighting. Victor rolled his eyes. You know damn well why. Chin-Yi wasn't offended, he grinned mischievously. A grudge over a stolen bride. Huh? Victor's eyes reddened. He growled. Chin-Yi let it drop and gave us all a half-hearted lecture. And that was that. Chapter 20. Clearly, Victor wasn't ready to let it go. Somehow, he found out where our marital home was. That night, he came pounding on the door. This time, he even brought Sabrina with him. He held the door open with his hand. Desperate. Ruby, there's really nothing going on between me and her. If you don't believe me, just ask her. Sabrina stood behind him, wringing her hands, looking timid. Miss Lin, Victor and I are just friends. I was stuck in lockdown in S-City for nearly 3 months. Victor was just worried about me. He only kept me company for a bit. We didn't do anything. I chuckled. If I'm not mistaken, you two broke up 5 years ago, right? That's some impressively long-lasting friendship. Just kept you company? Sounds so harmless. But you chose Valentine's Day, right before our wedding? Victor hurried to explain. I went to end things with her. I was planning to cut off all contact after our wedding. I didn't expect the outbreak in Y City. So, you were in contact before that? His head hung lower and lower. A few minutes passed before he finally muttered. It was just 6 months ago. 6 months ago? That was exactly when Nestor said he ran into Sabrina in S-City. He had acted so indifferent, only to turn around and contact her again? I didn't know whether I'd been stupid or he was just that good at pretending. I was trembling with rage. I raised my hand and slapped him, hard. Get out. Not because of love, just pure betrayal and lies. We'd known each other for over 20 years. He could have just told me the truth. We could have broken up with dignity. At least we'd still have been friends. After kicking them out, I threw myself onto the bed and cried hard. I had fed my youth to the dogs. A good cry was warranted. The next day, Nestor took a day off and dragged me around the city. We toured the Forbidden City, climbed the Great Wall, took photos at Tiananmen Square. We wandered through Mauer Hutong by day, soaking in history, and visited bars in Hohai by night, where a dreadlocked singer hummed about love, swaying my wine glass. I asked Nestor what love really was. I didn't like alcohol, and even when I had to drink, I never drank much. Maybe it was the ambience, or maybe the drinks were too strong, but by then I was already a little tipsy. Nestor looked at me with a gaze deep and unreadable. Years later, I'd read an article that tried to define love, and only then did I recall that dreamy night when he answered me with just one word. You. Chapter 21. Nestor and I slept together. And the scariest part? I remembered everything the next morning. I clearly remembered everything that happened afterward. After the dreadlocked singer left the stage, a young male dancer came up and started stripping. Pretty face, soft lips, flawless skin. I downed my umpteenth cocktail and stood up, trying to squeeze into the crowd. But Nestor grabbed me, eyes half-lidded. Where do you think you're going? My mind was sharp, but my body had a mind of its own. I squinted at him and tried to wriggle free. I want to go touch him. Touch him? And where exactly do you plan to touch? His voice got lower and lower, ending with a teasing that was downright sinful. Abs. His abs. Hick. I giggled like a pixelated creeper in a low-budget foreign porn parody. Nestor yanked me into his arms. His right hand slid behind my neck, while his left pulled my hand under his shirt, with his forehead pressed against mine. Breath warm. His voice was a dark temptation. I've got abs too, better than his. Want to try? Barely clinging to the last thread of sanity, I suggested, maybe we should go home first. We didn't. It was too far, and the night too dry, and the kindling too hot. We checked into a love-themed hotel room, and spent the night thoroughly exploring the mysteries of life. The central air in the room was a little too warm. I woke up the next morning from the heat. Nestor was wrapped around me like a koala. I pushed him. His long lashes fluttered open. He stared at me for a few seconds before realizing where he was. Then he buried his head in the crook of my neck and mumbled with that irresistible, husky morning voice. Don't move. Just a bit more sleep. I kept shoving him. I'm hot. I wanted to kick him. But everything hurt. Too sore. Too weak. Nestor didn't push his luck. He let go and obediently lay on his side. I lay flat on my back, staring at the ceiling. Stewing. Alcohol really is the devil. He gently rubbed my fingertips with his long, lean fingers. After a moment, he said, "So, wanna give dating a try?" Chapter 22. I didn't know how to respond. Logically, we were already married, so it shouldn't have felt this complicated. But after spending years entangled with Victor and watching it all fall apart, I was exhausted by the very idea of love. I kept staring up at the ceiling and whispered, "Can you give me some time?" Just coming out of one relationship, I really couldn't bring myself to leap into another. I didn't want to shortchange him. If possible, I wanted to completely empty out my heart so I could give it to him fully. Nestor pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead. "Okay, I'll wait for you." Then he told me a long story, a story of a secret crush he dared not confess to, a love he could never quite reach. He said, "Ruby, do you know? I was always terrified that if you ever found out I liked you, we wouldn't even be able to stay friends. I'd once read that when a boy bullies a girl all the time, it's because he likes her." Turned out that was true. Nestor's years-late confession made me panic. A week later, I moved out of the apartment and straight into the office. I didn't dare go home. I was afraid my parents would start asking questions. When I left, Nestor wasn't home yet. He'd been working late, preparing for a project bid, and often didn't get back until well past midnight. I figured he was giving me space, too. He always seemed carefree, but in truth, he handled everything with quiet precision. Chapter 23. The company had a private rest area with good internet, water, and electricity. I texted Sophia to let her know I'd moved out. Not long after, Nestor called. His voice was a little hoarse. "You moved out? Why? Did I do something wrong?" I stayed silent, and his voice got quieter and more uncertain, tinged with a bit of grievance. Is it really that hard for you to accept me?" I told him no, I just needed some time alone, to think. Ruby, no pressure. From the very beginning, I never expected anything in return. Just, "Come home soon. I'll be here waiting." After hanging up, I clutched my chest. My heart was beating way too fast. Out of everyone, Victor was probably the happiest about me moving out. He started showing up at our office every other day. I had reception turn him away every time. When he couldn't see me, he started sending flowers and gifts daily. I told the front desk to throw them all out. Clean breaks are best. No dragging it out. Chapter 24. In the days that followed, Nestor didn't contact me again. It was like he had vanished from my world. I let out a breath of relief, but I also felt a little hollow. Just as I was hesitating over whether to message him first, Mrs. Chan called. She was crying. "Ruby, can you come to the hospital? Victor was in a car accident. He just woke up and keeps asking to see you. Please, just this once. I'm begging you, come see him." She had loved me like her own child growing up, and hearing her choke back sobs made it impossible to say no. "Auntie, please don't cry. I'll come right now." Victor was wrapped in bandages, but thankfully the injuries weren't as severe as years ago. When he saw me, his whole face lit up. The movement seemed to tug at his wounds. He sucked in a sharp breath and tried to cover it with a strained smile. "You came," he said. "I knew you couldn't let me go." I set the fruit basket I bought downstairs on his windowsill. "You're overthinking. I'm only here because of your mom." "What happened this time? Another accident?" His gaze started to dart around. I got distracted and hit a curb. A lie. I knew it instantly. After nearly dying once, Victor had become an extremely cautious driver. There was no way he'd just zone out. There was only one explanation: he was pulling the same stunt again. Chapter 25. I sighed and looked at him seriously. "You're gambling with your life. Do you even realize that?" His voice trembled. "Ruby." I didn't let him finish. "Years ago, when you were in an accident, I stayed by your side because we were friends. Childhood friends. You hadn't betrayed me then. You hadn't lied. Even when you pushed me away, it was because your heart belonged to someone else, and you were honest about it. But this time is different. You betrayed our love. You betrayed our marriage. There's no going back. Victor, we can't go back. Think about your parents. Don't ever pull this kind of stunt again." I let out a long breath and softened my tone. "I won't be coming to see you again. Take care of yourself." Chapter 26. On the way back, I texted Sophia. I'm sure of it now. I don't love Victor anymore. She replied almost instantly. He never deserved you. Babe, don't let a past relationship hold you back. You deserve to be loved. Every girl who faces life with sincerity deserves to be loved. I locked my screen, closed my eyes, and tilted my head up into the September sun. The sunlight today felt especially warm. That evening, the man who'd seemingly vanished off the face of the earth, my husband, Nestor, finally called. When I picked up, it wasn't his voice on the line. Instead, a hearty male voice spoke. Boss lady, the boss is drunk. Can you come get him? He gave me the address of a KTV. When I arrived, a round-faced guy was smoking at the door. As soon as he saw me, he stubbed out the cigarette and beamed. You're finally here. Ma'am, Mr. Sue is inside. I'll take you to him. Surprised, I asked, you know who I am? He scratched his head, showing two little tiger teeth as he grinned. Mr. Sue's had your photo on his desk for years. I'd visited Nestor's company from time to time for work, and somehow never noticed. As we walked, he chatted easily. Mr. Sue barely slept the past few days prepping for this bid, and tonight he drank way too much, no idea if his body can handle it. But the bid was successful, so at least all the effort paid off. I paused. So the reason he hadn't contacted me was because he'd been busy? Chapter 27. Pushing open the door to the private room, I spotted Nestor right away, sitting quietly in the corner. I walked over to pull him up, but he deftly dodged my hand. The next second, realizing it was me, he pounced and hugged my waist tightly, buried in my arms. His voice was muffled and soft. Wife, why did you take so long? I've been waiting forever. Definitely drunk. Maybe everyone had a bit too much to drink, because the atmosphere in the room was hyped up. As he clung to me like a koala, the rest of the group erupted in cheers and whistles. I patted his head and gave a slightly embarrassed smile to the crowd. I'll take him home now. Drunk Nestor was surprisingly obedient. When I told him to let go, he immediately did, but insisted on holding my hand. He asked, Wife, where are we going? Home, I said. Our home? His eyes sparkled under the lights like stars flickering in the night sky. I completely caved under that gaze. Yes, our home. Chapter 28. I returned to our home, the one we had promised to build together. This time, for real, we began our life as husband and wife. It was a simple routine, but it held the kind of tenderness that only blooms when two people truly choose to care for each other. Nestor often brought me flowers after work, small bouquets wrapped in craft paper and tied with delicate ribbons, or he'd show up with a little box of pastries, carefully selected for their look and flavor. He always said, I saw it and thought it might make you smile. I started learning to cook his favorite dishes. I searched for recipes, tried them out, made mistakes, but every time I got it right, his eyes would light up as if I'd served him a feast fit for a king. On weekends, he had this habit of never letting me sleep early. He'd pull me into laughter, caresses, and teasing until exhaustion took us both. The next morning, he'd hold me close in bed, and we'd sleep in until the sunlight gently warmed our skin. That's when I realized the love I had dreamed of didn't have to be tempestuous or burn with wild passion. This was enough. A warm coffee, a shared smile. I brought your umbrella in the middle of the rain. Chan's mother called a few more times, still hoping I'd go see Victor. But each time, I answered her firmly. I couldn't allow even the slightest trace of false hope. He had to understand that whatever we had, it was over. A few months later, life surprised us with a gift. I was pregnant. Nestor froze for a second when I told him, and then he hugged me so tightly I thought he'd never let go. He laughed and cried all at once, like a child, like someone who had just received the most unexpected miracle. You're really that happy? I asked, laughing, pretending to scold him. Of course I am, he said, eyes shining. You're giving me a child. You. I curled up against his chest, feeling his heartbeat blend with mine. And I thought silently, life is long, but if it's with you, then yes, I want to live every minute of it. Chapter 29. Around New Year's, I got a call from an unknown number. Since it was a City B number, I answered without thinking much of it. To my surprise, the voice on the other end was one I hadn't heard in a long time. Ruby, I heard you're pregnant. Victor, I replied with a flat yeah. completely emotionless. Do you need anything? If not, I'm hanging up. No. Wait. Ruby, please, don't hang. I didn't let him finish. I hung up immediately, without hesitation and without a second thought. I blocked his number. After that, I set my phone down face down and stood up. I wasn't going to let a shadow from the past creep into my present. I walked into the study, where Nestor was reviewing some papers. Deeply focused. Nestor, I said with a playful smile, your son wants hot pot. Without even looking up, he corrected me with absolute certainty. Don't be ridiculous. It's a girl, he said, gently caressing my increasingly round belly. Then he stood up and wrapped me in his arms, handling me with the utmost care, as if I were made of porcelain. Come on, love. Go get changed. Tonight, we're having hot pot in honor of our little princess. Extra. Chapter 1. My name is Victor. Maybe you could call me a scumbag. There's a girl next door, Ruby, 2 years younger than me, who's always clinging to me. I never understood why she was so attached to me, especially since she actually got along better with that guy Nestor. And honestly, I didn't really like her hanging out with Nestor, but I never told anyone. If I had, people might have thought I was petty. The adults were always joking about us, saying she was like my little wife. If I hadn't met Sabrina, I probably wouldn't have minded marrying her. But the fact is, I did meet her. Sabrina was my classmate in university. Unlike Ruby's sweet and adorable looks, Sabrina was stunning, jaw-droppingly beautiful. There's that saying, cuteness means nothing in front of sex appeal. I couldn't agree more. If Ruby was an angel, then Sabrina was a temptress. I mean it, she had me completely wrapped around her finger. After she pleaded with me several times in her soft, coaxing voice, I took her to Ruby's coming-of-age ceremony. That little girl who always looked at me with twinkling eyes and a smile froze the moment she saw us. My heart ached a little, just a little. Ruby stood there stunned, and Nestor came and took her away. Meanwhile, my parents dragged me out to the garden and scolded me like crazy. I think I might have ruined one of the most important days in Ruby's life. Chapter 2. I knew my parents wouldn't approve of me dating Sabrina, but I didn't expect them to oppose it that strongly. When persuasion failed, my mom even resorted to threatening suicide to make us break up. She tried everything, pills, hanging, constant drama. After the third or fourth time, I got fed up. The last straw came when she was rushed to the hospital again after slashing her wrists. I completely lost it and took all my anger out on Ruby, who had been waiting there worried sick. She looked at me with tearful, disbelieving eyes, then turned and walked out of the hospital without saying a word. That was the only time I ever lost my temper with her. Honestly, I regretted it right after, but I just couldn't swallow my pride and apologize. Ruby was really angry. She even moved into the school dorms. Then I got a beating from my grandpa, with a stick. All these years, Ruby had been like a little shadow trailing behind me, quiet, obedient, and sensible. But after that, she completely cut me off. It was obvious, she was truly pissed. I guess I deserved it. What I said to her was too cruel. I bought gifts and went to her school to see her, but she wouldn't even come out to meet me. I never realized before how hard it could be to coax a girl like her. Chapter 3. While I was failing to make up with Ruby, Sabrina started throwing fits because I was spending too much energy on another girl. I hadn't slept well in days. The result of that fatigue? I got into a serious car accident. They said if some kind passerby hadn't dragged me out of the car in time, I would have gone up in flames with it. So I guess you could say I got lucky, barely. A little over a month later, Sabrina broke up with me. She cried and said she couldn't take it anymore. My family still wouldn't accept her. It must have been my mom again, stirring up trouble, even though I didn't want to let her go. I agreed. I didn't even know if I'd be able to walk again. No point dragging her down with me. Chapter 4. Sabrina left, but Ruby started showing up every day. I was in both physical and emotional pain. So naturally, I was irritable, but she didn't seem to mind at all. She came anyway, every single day. Because the injuries were severe, I needed multiple surgeries. Every time I woke up from one, she was there. Rehabilitation was the worst part. I thought of giving up so many times, but she always encouraged me with that gentle voice. Seeing all that, how could I not be moved? That was when I started thinking, this girl is the one I want to spend the rest of my life with. After I recovered, I confessed to her, but she turned me down. She said she didn't need me to repay her with a relationship. I smiled and replied, "It's not about repaying you. I just want to take care of you for the rest of my life." She tilted her head and muttered, "A lifetime's a long time. You better be serious about it." That look she gave me, so adorably cute. Chapter 5. I chased after Ruby for 2 whole years before she finally believed that I really loved her. We'd been together for over half a year when I heard news about Sabrina from Nestor. Looking back, I had done her wrong too. On impulse, I sent a message to her old number. To my surprise, she hadn't changed it. We added each other on Instagram and started chatting frequently. As for Ruby, she never checked my phone, so I wasn't worried about her finding out. Sabrina often sent me pictures. Her figure was even better than it was 5 years ago, and her words were much more suggestive now. After several months of chatting, an outbreak hit S-City, and the whole city went into lockdown. To be honest, I was worried about Sabrina. When the lockdown ended, she messaged me asking me to come see her. I hesitated. Ruby and I were about to get married. We had already decided to register on Valentine's Day. I was afraid I wouldn't make it back in time, but Sabrina knew exactly how to push my buttons. Seeing me hesitate, she immediately sent a seductive photo. What can I say? Men are visual creatures. Ruby was too conservative. I had always kept up the gentle, considerate image in front of her. Even after all this time, the most we'd ever done was kiss, just soft kisses at that. I did the math and figured I could make it back before Valentine's Day. I told Ruby I was going on a business trip to S-City. As expected, she didn't suspect a thing. Chapter 6. After 2 days of indulgence and debauchery, I was ready to head back to City B. But Sabrina clung to me again. She curled up in my arms, fiddling with my buttons, and looked up at me pitifully. "Can you come with me to Y City?" she asked. I told her I had to go home. Ruby was waiting for me. She said she knew I was getting married, and after that, she wouldn't bother me anymore. She just wanted this Valentine's Day to be hers. I'd still have many more with Ruby. There were tears in her eyes as she said it. I just couldn't say no. I called Ruby and told her something had come up and I might be 2 days late getting back. I promised I'd definitely make it in time for the wedding. She's always been understanding. She just reminded me to stay safe. Sabrina and I bought plane tickets to Y City and spent a romantic Valentine's Day there. But just as we were about to leave, an outbreak hit Y City. I panicked. Chapter 7. No one knew how long the lockdown would last. One thing was certain, I wasn't going to make it to my own wedding. I called Ruby again, trying to discuss postponing the ceremony, but what I didn't expect was for Sabrina to suddenly speak in the background. I quickly hung up, but I was sure Ruby had heard her. I told her to wait for me, that I could explain everything, though honestly, I had no idea how I was going to explain any of it. She was never easy to coax. The last time I upset her, it took years to make it up to her. This time, I wasn't sure she'd ever forgive me. I started to feel scared. The next day, I was supposed to be standing at one end of the aisle, watching Ruby walk toward me in her white dress. Instead, I was stuck in a hotel room. The messages I sent her all went unanswered. Frustrated, I opened Instagram to message her again, only to find someone had sent me a short video. In the video, my bride was dressed in white, walking slowly down the aisle, but at the other end of the aisle, where I was supposed to be, stood Nestor. I frantically tried calling her, only to have my calls rejected over and over again. Out of options, I called my mom and begged her to stop the wedding. She must have done it to punish me. I thought, she and Nestor? No way, right? Chapter 8. I smashed everything I could get my hands on in that hotel room. Sabrina tried to come over and hug me, but I threw her off. "This is all your fault. If it weren't for you dragging me to Y City, I'd be marrying Ruby right now." She looked frightened and didn't dare come near again. 10+ days of quarantine in Y City nearly drove me insane. Ruby blocked me. I begged my mom to help, but all she did was scold me for being an idiot before washing her hands of it. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. All I could think about was whether Ruby would truly leave me. That's when I realized just how deeply I had come to love her. After quarantine ended, I returned to City B and brought Sabrina with me. I thought if she explained things herself, maybe it would sound more believable. Chapter 9. But Ruby told me she had already registered her marriage with Nestor. Every explanation I had fell flat in front of her. Worse yet, she found out Sabrina and I had been in touch all along. She kicked me out. I could tell she was furious. I tried everything to get her to forgive me. Nothing worked. Desperate, I made a reckless move. I crashed my car into the curb on purpose. But even that, she saw through instantly. She gave me a lecture, then left without a trace of hesitation. And just like that, I think we were truly over. In the end, I lost the girl whose eyes used to be filled with nothing but me.